Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, Pakistan and Afghanistan are two neighboring Islamic countries. We share common history, common religion, common culture, and there are so many other commonalities. And because of that, it is important that Pakistan and Afghanistan should maintain a very close, friendly relations, both at the government to government level and at the people to people level. Now, last year, on 15th August, a change happened in Afghanistan, which was sudden in many ways, and it brought some uncertainty also. And international community, US and NATO forces, donors left Afghanistan, and a new government headed by Taliban, which calls itself as Afghan interim government, took power. They faced many challenges. First, there was a challenge of evacuation because many people wanted to leave Afghanistan, foreigners and many Afghans also. Pakistan in that phase played a very facilitative role, trying to help Afghanistan, trying to help Afghan society, and trying to help Afghan government in terms of stabilizing the situation. And we also then gradually provided them humanitarian assistance because a winter was approaching, and there was a possibility, or there was an apprehension that it will cause a lot of suffering to the people. Thank God, Afghan government also assumed Afghanistan's institutions, mobilized Afghanistan's institutions despite all those difficulties they were facing. And during the winter, international community also provided humanitarian assistance, and a large-scale catastrophe was avoided. Now, Afghanistan faces many challenges because of lack of foreign funding, lack of international assistance, and also restrictions on their own funds, which have been which are not being provided, their foreign reserves which are not being provided to them, and then also banking restrictions which prevent them from maintaining normal business and trade relations with the rest of the world, particularly neighboring countries and the region. So I would say that Afghan interim government has done well in recent months in terms of stabilizing governance framework in Afghanistan, and the security situation is much better. But there are some economic challenges, and then challenges, internal political challenges with regard to what kind of political framework they will involve for in terms of long-term future governance, political governance in Afghanistan. Everything should be seen in the context. Afghanistan has gone through a conflict, has been going through a conflict, internal conflict, as well as presence of external forces for past 4 decades. There was jihad, then there was internal civil war in Afghanistan, and then there was Taliban's first rule. Then US and NATO presence came for last 2 decades. Now, after 15th August 2021, there is no foreign troops presence in Afghanistan, and therefore now it will, the international community, Afghanistan's neighbors, regional countries, all of them are going through a process. Afghan government is engaged with the international community. They are engaged with neighboring countries. They are engaged with the region. They are engaged with international community, all major powers, including US, Russia, China. So I think it will be a process now that when the engagement between Afghan interim government and international community, or particularly with the neighbors, reaching a stage where there is a consensus, or where there is an overwhelming opinion that Afghanistan interim government should be recognized. So we believe that it has to come through a process so that it brings permanent stability to Afghanistan, and it brings economic stability and opportunities for regional connectivity for Afghanistan and the entire region. Pakistan's plans will be to remain in coordination with all Afghanistan, first of all, Afghan interim government, develop, gradually strengthen and broaden our engagement with them, particularly in the economic and regional connectivity field, and also remain connected with Afghanistan's other neighbors and the international community. And through this consultative process, when it will be the decision of the government, when it thinks that a time is appropriate for going for formal recognition of the Afghan interim government. Unfortunately, Indian role during the past 2 decades was quite negative in Afghanistan. They were present there during the Afghan governments in the past decades, and they invested in areas where, like, destabilizing Pakistan-Afghanistan border, causing movement of illegal elements, terrorist elements into Pakistan, destabilizing Pakistan's then FATA region, or undertaking such destabilizing coercive activities inside Balochistan. So we had serious concerns about this Indian role. But we hope that India and Afghanistan both are independent sovereign countries. They can choose their own relations. They are, both of them can find ways of establishing their own relations. The only concern Pakistan would again like to convey and emphasize is that any country's presence in Afghanistan should be for supporting Afghanistan, supporting peace, stability, and progress in Afghanistan, and avoiding any negative investments in Afghanistan which can have concerns for Afghanistan's neighbors, including Pakistan. As I have stated, that Pakistan had serious concerns with this kind of role being played by Indian government in Afghanistan, Indian agencies in Afghanistan, and that is something which we have continued to emphasize, that our region is now moving towards efforts for regional economic connectivity, and all the governments, all the countries in the region have to play an important role, a contributing role for making our region free of terrorism and going towards peace, stability, and economic development. Pakistan and Afghanistan have been two primary or two leading trading partners in our region. At one point in 2012 or 13, our bilateral trade with Afghanistan was touching $3 billion, and both countries were planning that the target should move to $5 billion or even $10 billion. But then, since international community, US and NATO had started scaling down their presence in Afghanistan, expatriates and donors were also decreasing their involvement, economic involvement in Afghanistan. And then when this change took place last year, a totally new government, Afghan interim government led by Taliban, came, which faces economic restrictions, sanctions, and normal trading and business is being affected. But even during this time, in this year, from 15th August to from 2021 to 15th August 2022, we have seen an upward trend in trade with Pakistan, which is a positive trend. Afghanistan's fruit and other products, traditional products, are coming to Pakistan. Afghanistan's coal is being bought by cement plants and in power plants in Pakistan, and we continue to face impediments at border crossing points to countries, because Afghanistan has been going through a period of warfare and instability for past 4 decades. Our border crossing points are not at that stage where they should be, and both governments are now working. We are engaged with Afghan interim government. Our delegations are regularly traveling to Afghanistan, or Afghan delegations are also being invited here to ensure that movement of trucks is smooth, movement of peoples also becomes smooth, and because these things are fundamentally important for enhancing volume of trade between the two countries. So I think in the coming year also, Pakistan is hopeful. Afghan institutions are also engaged with us for increasing volume of bilateral trade further. So I am really optimistic that in the coming year and in the coming years, the trade with Afghanistan is going to multiply. I'll go back to a previous question, that during the past 2 decades, when foreign forces were also present in Afghanistan, and there was an environment where the then Afghan governments were not having full control over Afghan territory, and because of that, there were pockets particularly along Pakistan-Afghanistan border, but also with Afghanistan's border with other neighboring countries, where terrorists could find safe havens and shelter, and they could use, unfortunately, use soil of a friendly country for destabilizing Pakistan. As I referred to you, there were investments regarding activities in Balochistan, or there were investments for destabilizing Pakistan's tribal areas also. We have been taking up this matter with the previous Afghan governments also, and after 15th August, when this government came into power, we have taken it up this matter in a very effective way with them, and the response of the current Afghan government and their institutions has been very consistent. They say that Afghan soil will not be used against any other country, including Pakistan. We welcome this commitment. We believe this is a very assuring commitment, and our institutional engagement with them is continuing. They are facilitating Pakistan in terms of implementing this commitment. They are facilitating Pakistan in its talks with groups like TTP, and we believe that we should see it as a larger issue. Terrorism has been causing a lot of problems in this region for past 2-3 decades. Now there is an opportunity for elimination of terrorism. We have to combine our resources for combating terrorism and eliminating terrorism. And towards eliminating terrorism, it is important that Pakistan, Afghanistan governments should continue to cooperate. There should be no terrorism inside Afghanistan. There should be no terrorism in Pakistan. That is the only way that this 2,600 kilometer long border can be used for enhancing trade and economic connectivity. ISKP presence in Afghanistan has been there and has also, according to some reports, continued to strengthen. Even United Nations reports or United Nations institutions report to the Security Council have also been hinting or have also been presenting a data according to which ISKP presence has been there in Afghanistan. ISKP also undertook some terrorist attacks in various provinces in Afghanistan, particularly targeting Shia mosques or ethnic groups and trying to fuel ethnic war in Afghanistan. Afghan interim government has continued to reiterate their commitment that they are very serious in combating ISKP threat, and the measures they have taken also indicate that they have been able to reduce the threat in the last few weeks and months. But it will be a continuous effort will be required, for which I think it is important that Afghanistan's capacity building in counterterrorism should be done, and Afghanistan should be engaging with all its neighbors in terms of securing the borders, and then Afghanistan should also be, the new government, Afghan interim government, has to be part of an international counterterrorism framework. So it will be a holistic or comprehensive effort, I believe, which will be required in the coming years if we want to liberate this area from the challenge of terrorism. As you know that when these talks were, Afghan interim government came into power under Taliban, and in the initial few months we saw some increase in the acts of terrorism inside Pakistan. Pakistan took up this matter with the Afghan interim government, and Afghan interim government conveyed its firm commitment that it will not allow its soil to be used against Pakistan or against any other country. And for implementation of that commitment, Afghan interim government offered us their facilitation for talks with the TTP, because their view was, and we also agree with that, that first priority for peace and security, for achieving lasting peace and security in our territory and for our people, is through peaceful means and dialogue. Now this is a complex issue. A process of negotiations is underway. We are grateful for the facilitation being provided by Afghan interim government and their leaders, And all these issues which you have mentioned, that what is the role of security institutions, what will be the what should be the role of future of TTP, or all those elements, that everything has to happen under constitutional framework of Pakistan, are being discussed in these negotiations. Since this is an ongoing negotiation, I would not like to go into the details of these issues, but I think it is important that the negotiations have to continue to be within the framework, within the constitutional framework of Pakistan. And as you have seen, or you know, that recently Parliament has also been briefed by the security institutions on the process of negotiations, how the negotiations are going to evolve, what are our government's expectations with regard to an outcome. So at the end of the day, when progress is made, parliamentary oversight will also, or parliamentary endorsement will also and should also be therefore ensuring that there is a deal which is which is a win-win deal, which leads to durable peace and stability in whole of Pakistan, in the entire country. I think I would like to place it on record here that Afghan government, Afghan interim government, Afghan leaders have played a very constructive, very facilitative role in the process. Now, at the same time, they have also been saying, and we also know, that this is a very complicated and complex process. It has a baggage. There has been instability in these border areas of Pakistan and Afghanistan for past several decades now, because of the presence of so many other factors. So I think it is important to realize and to recognize that some kind of patience is required. The process would be moving in at a slow and calibrated pace, and so many quick fixes or short-term solutions may not be possible. But the focus, for both Pakistan and Afghanistan agree, that focus has to be on stability within our own territories as well as cross-border peace and stability. And that is the goal we are working for. And there I think our institutions and Afghan institutions are, in my view, on the same page. Pakistan's visa policy is not strict. First of all, Pakistan is a country among all Afghan neighbors and among the rest of the world also, which grants more visas to Afghans than any other country. And our number of visas which we are giving to Afghans is far above than any other neighboring country or any other country in the world. We have been, in past several years, we have been issuing around 2,000 visas per day from Kabul and our consulates to Afghan citizens for coming to Pakistan. Even after 15th August, when this change took place and there was a lot of uncertainty prevailing there, embassies were moving out at that time. Even those countries who claimed to be great friends of Afghanistan were moving out at that time. Pakistan stayed there, maintained its embassy. All our staff, all our officers, myself, we were there, and we spent day and night for ensuring that those who wanted to leave for temporary relocation to Pakistan can come to Pakistan. Those who wanted to go abroad for some reasons can go to other countries. And during this process, we have issued, during this period, we have issued between 180,000 to 200,000 visas for Afghans. Now, the main challenge and main impediment in the visa process is the process itself. The process, visa process requires an online application. Online applications, there is a vast network of agents inside Afghanistan, and therefore, when they upload the applications, either applications are not fully filled, completely filled, or there are some discrepancies in the applications, and because of which some applications are rejected. But even now, we are issuing 1,500 visas per day from Kabul and our consulates, and there is no restriction on the number. If this visa process can be improved, if the process of filling the applications can be improved, and I have been talking to Afghan ministries there, and I hope they will be taking some measures where this framework or this network of agents processing the applications can be regulated in a better way. If that can be done mutually through mutual cooperation between Pakistan and Afghanistan, I think the visa process can be made more transparent, and because Afghans need to come to Pakistan for medical treatment, for business, for family links, for education, for so many other things. And Pakistan has no restrictive policy in terms of numbers for providing visa to Afghans. But only restriction or only delay take place because of the process itself. One of the most important points to note is that Pakistan doesn't charge any visa fee or on Afghan visa. Only a processing fee of $8.18 is charged. So allegations that someone is taking $600 or demanding $600 for a visa are ill-founded, and if an applicant has to apply, he or she can apply from their own computer, and their application is, if it is fully filled, and if it is on a medical visa, it will be issued in 2-3 days. If it is a business visa, it will be issued in 2-3 days. If it is a normal long-term visit visa, it takes about 4 weeks to be processed. Yes, I think this is a very good question. There has to be clarity that why these Afghans are here in so many, such big numbers. The thing is that many Afghans after 15th August 2021 were promised by many countries or embassies of many countries that they will be taken to their countries, they will be provided immigration for those countries. And in this process, or in this hope, a large number of Afghans who came to Pakistan, these Afghans are now claiming, and they are protesting that their applications or their processes are not being entertained by those countries, and they are not demonstrating or protesting against Pakistan. They are actually, their demands are, they are addressing those countries where they want to go. So I think it is important that these countries should also pay attention to such a large number of Afghan people who are protesting here in Islamabad, and there should be they should be helped. These people should be helped, so that either they should go back to Afghanistan, or they go to those countries where they want to go. I think this impression is not correct. First of all, Pakistan-Afghanistan relationship is much more deep-rooted than Afghanistan's relationship with any other country. You have yourself given an example that if you look at the last 4-5 decades, more than 5 million people have at any time been living in Pakistan and enjoying a life where they are provided equal opportunities as Pakistani citizens. Afghan students have been coming to Pakistan in a regular manner. Every year, Pakistan provides 1,000 scholarships, but on self-financing, a large number of Afghans come to Pakistan in addition to that 1,000 number. And Pakistan has undertaken more than $1 billion assistance projects in Afghanistan, where you can see there are universities established by Pakistan, or university departments and faculties established by Pakistan. Pakistan has established 3 major hospitals in the public sector in Afghanistan. A large number of Afghans who want to have medical treatment in Pakistan, they who want to have medical treatment abroad, they come to Pakistan and they receive in Pakistan's public sector. They receive medical treatment in Pakistan's public sector hospital where expenses are not too high. Those who go to any other country, including India, they have to spend a lot of money on medical treatment in the private sector there. So I think since Pakistan and Afghanistan are two independent countries, two neighboring countries, but two independent and sovereign countries, so the relationship also has to have this neighborly engagement or challenges relating to this neighborly engagement, and therefore you see, because of so many commonalities, because of such a deep rooted interaction, you also see many hostile lobbies working through media investments in Afghanistan or working through social media networks, projecting or sometimes misprojecting Pakistan's cooperation or cooperation as giving them negative means or negative projections. So I think in terms of, if you look at the people-to-people interaction between the two countries, which is the country where largest number of Afghans are going or would like to go or apply for visa, or even a large number comes through to Pakistan without visa through some border crossings like Chaman, where local people can cross on Taskara. So I think that kind of interaction is not provided to to Afghans by any other country, but it is something which is rooted in Pakistan, Afghanistan history itself. It is not something which any other country can undertake, because Pakistan, Afghanistan's history indicates that the two societies have been engaged in social interaction and cultural interaction and have commonality of religion and so many other commonalities, because of which this interaction is vital, I would say, for both countries, that it is mutually beneficial. It is not just that Pakistan is giving them any favor. It is mutually beneficial interaction. Now, I think if I take your question forward, we have to work on translating this region or translating this Pakistan-Afghanistan relationship into regional economic connectivity. Afghanistan has not been able to become a regional hub for connectivity because of the war or because of the conflict that has continued to affect Afghanistan since late 1970s. Now, first time there is a moment in history where there is no foreign presence. There is a prospect of longer term peace in Afghanistan. Yes, it requires evolving a political framework acceptable to Afghan population, addressing all those social and other political issues. But I think effort should be moving towards regional economic and trade connectivity, and that will not only benefit Pakistan and Afghanistan, but our entire region. I think what has happened in last 10 or 11 months is very encouraging. That Afghan interim government, despite all those challenges, they came into government and they had to transform themselves from an insurgency into a governing unit in a short span of time. They have mobilized and they have introduced dynamism within Afghan institutions. All these Afghan government institutions are working actively and they are raising domestic revenues. Since all the foreign aid and even Afghanistan's own reserves have been frozen, they have been facing some difficulties. But despite that, they have been able to through their domestic resources to present a budget of between $2 to $3 billion. And at the same time, international community at the humanitarian level, including United Nations, including neighboring countries, are also playing a supportive role. So I think important thing is that since there is stability in Afghanistan today, and Afghanistan's entire territory is accessible for everyone. You can come there and you can land in Kabul, or you can come to Jalalabad and go to any part of Afghanistan, from Kandahar to Herat or Mazar-e-Sharif. This situation was not there in the previous years because of the war. So I think it is important that now Afghan interim government has to be strengthened through capacity building, through training, so that they acquire that capability to strengthen their governance. They have already shown their own capability of governance, but they have to be strengthened. And at the same time, it is important that tools of economic sanctions should not be used for affecting an entire nation. Afghanistan's foreign reserves should be handed over to the Afghan nation for their own, they can, so that they can spend that for their own benefit, for their own welfare. And it is important, if we want to achieve lasting peace and stability in Afghanistan, that Afghan interim government's engagement with the international community should strengthen. Afghanistan should be, as a sovereign country, should move towards broadening of engagement with all the partners in the international community, and this engagement is continuing, and there are prospects that gradually this engagement will lead to an outcome which is desired by people of Afghanistan as well as the entire international community. In order to avert any humanitarian situations or humanitarian crises coming to Afghanistan again in the coming years, and since the country has also been recovering from a prolonged internal warfare and the presence of foreign forces in Afghanistan for decades, it is important that international community should come forward. We would hope that the international community would come forward and try to assist Afghan society, try to assist Afghan nation, try to assist Afghan institutions in developing the capability through which they can take care of these challenges. And in recent months, we have seen that many embassies of many countries and many international institutions who had left Afghanistan after 15th August 2021 are now either coming back to Afghanistan or are considering to coming back to Afghanistan. These include Asian Development Bank, World Bank, and so many other organizations. Many other countries are coming back to Afghanistan. EU has already opened its limited mission in Afghanistan. So I think all the effort of all the countries should be towards helping Afghanistan in becoming a productive member of the international community.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your precious time. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.